I look forward to greeting the pilgrims and the people of Philadelphia when I come for the World Meeting for Families. I will be there because you will be there. See you in Philadelphia.
Pope Francis, in a message delivered entirely in English to the people of Philadelphia ahead of his visit to the city of brotherly love. Of course, the Pope arrived earlier this afternoon in Washington, where he will meet with President Obama and address a joint session of Congress. Before Philadelphia, Pope Francis will also come here to New York City, where he will meet with the UN General Assembly and also celebrate Mass at Madison Square Garden. So, what impact will this papal visit have? For more, we're very pleased to be joined by Father Aquinas Guilbeau. Father Guilbeau helped cover Pope Benedict XVI's visit to New York back in 2008, and he joins us from the Dominican House of Studies in Washington, D.C. via Skype. And also via Skype, from Newsmax, Washington, Pope Francis biographer Luis Rosales. Luis co-authored the book, Francis, A Pope for Our Time. Gentlemen, thanks to you both for spending some time with us here on Newsmax Prime. And Luis, let me begin with you as a biographer. What impact do you believe the pontiff's visit on Cuba?
It's going to be a great impact. I think that Pope Francis has in mind a little more deeper objective that the one we can easily realize reading newspapers or just talking on TV. I think that Pope Francis, as a Jesuit, has a kind of civilizatory goal, which is the intention of rebuild a bridge between the south and the north of the whole hemisphere. I think that for a Jesuit and for the Roman Catholic Pope, it is not the same that the main power in the world is in the hands of the Americans or the Chinese. And I think that for our civilization, the only one real alternative, the only one next step is to incorporate Latin America in the real table of decisions.
And mindful of that, Luis, let me turn to Father Guilbeau, because in some quarters, the Pope has received criticism for not reaching out and making it a point to visit with dissidents in Cuba. Father Guilbeau, your response to the Pope not seeking out those dissidents in communist Cuba?
Well, I think it's interesting to note that Pope Francis, during his welcome address, acknowledged the fact that he's the third Pope in 20 years to visit Cuba. Pope Benedict XVI before him and Pope John Paul II before him. And neither, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, made explicit visits with imprisoned dissidents. Though it must be said that in his opening address, in his welcome address, Pope Francis did acknowledge that there would be people not able to see him. And I think that was a veiled reference to those who were in prison. And to them, he sent his heartfelt greetings and salutations. So I think the Pope did recognize that certainly things are not well in Cuba, but in a diplomatic way and in a charitable way, did send his greetings to those who suffer injustice in that land.
Point well taken. Luis, let me turn to you. We remember Pope John Paul II, the Polish Pope, as one who was, dare I say, somewhat strident against communism in Eastern Europe. Pope Francis, as the good father pointed out, a bit more subtle yesterday in Cuba. But do you think the presence of the Pope helps to plant the same seeds of skepticism and perhaps dissidence toward the communist regime and the Castro brothers there?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be, in a long term, a great contribution to Cuba, because to remove the last obstacle Cuba has to incorporate, to the family of nations in Latin America, it would be very, very useful for the future of the island, and I think for the reconciliation of the whole hemisphere. I think that Francis has in his mind, as a Jesuit, as I said before, a real civilizatory goal, which is a little more bigger, larger than just to change regime in the island of Cuba.
And now in the United States comes Pope Francis, his first visit here, Father Guilbeau, and he will become the first pope to address a joint session of Congress. Can you describe the historical significance of this in about 40 seconds?
Well, it's I can only say what I've read in other reports, that he's the first religious leader to address a joint session of Congress. Certainly the Pope comes as a head of state. He's the head of a state that has diplomatic relations with the United States, so it's very, very proper that he would address the American government as a head of state. But he's also coming as a pastor, as the head of the Catholic Church. 25% of the American population is Catholic, and so he comes as the leader of the largest, in fact, religious body by numbers in the United States. But he also comes as an evangelist. He's going to preach. He's going to preach the good news, the gospel of Jesus Christ, to both sides of the aisle there in the chamber of the House of Representatives. And it'll be very interesting to see what he chooses.
And we will watch with interest tomorrow. For now, gentlemen, we thank you very much for your time. And of course, popes are elected, but with spiritual consultation. With another kind of selection, we want to talk to you. Newsmax wants to know, who is your candidate of choice for the Republican nomination in 2016? Donald Trump, Carly Fiorina, Dr. Ben Carson, or somebody else? You can let us know by voting now at newsmaxpolls.com.